that was. What?
Just a hop across the street.
Yeah. It's, it looks like I said, I've been playing Monopoly. The first time I got a real estate license was in California. Yeah. Well, I know they stopped.
It just keeps going and going.
Oh, no, I finally let it go,
Okay.
retired and
Okay.
whatever.
Yeah.
My youngest son, Nathan, with the company.
All right. All right, everybody, welcome to the November 4th, 2025 Salem Planning Commission. I'm going to call it to order and ask that Jennifer call the roll.
Commissioner Fott? Here. Commissioner Fryback?
Here.
Commissioner Heller?
Here.
Commissioner Levin?
Here.
Commissioner Rhodes? Here. President Slater?
Here.
Commissioner Tev? Here. Commissioner Vieira Brindell?
Here.
We have quorum.
All right, great. Before we move any further, is there anyone here who has remarks to make to the Planning Commission that is not part of the public hearing? Not part of the public hearing. I'm looking around. Commissioner Fryback, did you? No, I'm joking. Okay. With that, then I will turn to Commissioner Tev for a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of our October 14th, 2025 meeting as they are written.
Thank you very much. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, we have a first and a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, with no discussion, then Jennifer, if you again could please call the roll for us.
Commissioner Fott?
Aye.
Commissioner Fryback?
Aye.
Commissioner Heller?
Aye.
Commissioner Levin?
Here.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Abstain.
Commissioner Slater?
Aye.
Commissioner Tev?
Aye.
Commissioner Vieira Brindell?
Abstain. All right, motion passes. With no resolutions and no action items, we will go on to the first public hearing and annexation. And I believe, Jennifer, you get to read the criteria for us.
This is a public hearing to consider case number ANXC CPC ZC 2501 for property located at 2170 Walker Road Northeast and 4893 Sunnyview Road Northeast. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in the Salem Revised Code under chapters 260.010 G2 Annexation, 64.025 E2 Minor Comprehensive Plan Map Amendment, and 265.005 E Zone Change. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Planning Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Planning Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
All right, thank you. We will hear from Mr. Bishop first, then we'll hear from the applicant, and then we will hear from the public. Mr. Bishop, please.
Walker Road Northeast, yeah. Sunnyview Road Northeast. That's actually this slide, my slide, the property includes an annexation, this includes both an annexation and a minor comprehensive plan amendment to change portion of the property, 2170 Walker Road Northeast, approximately 6 acres of that southern portion of the property from developing residential to multiple family residential. In which the to use a large multi-family residential. Yeah, and another property is this is the this is complaint don't change the reason statement.
Oh, there we go. Now can you hear me? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in terms of the subject property itself, It is, we have two properties. There is the larger property is 18.49 acres located at 2170 Walker Road Northeast. And that is shown here. It is north of Sunnyview Road, west of Corden Road, and east of Walker Road. And then there is sorry about that. Then there is a smaller property to the west of Walker Road on the north side of Sunnyview that is would be an enclave property had they not volunteered to be included in this application, which they did. So whenever an annexation includes an enclave, which is property surrounded entirely by city limits, we give the neighboring property owners the opportunity to be part of the annexation. So the neighboring property owner to the west there at 4893 did, want to be part of this process. So that is included with this application. But in terms of the review tonight, we're only dealing with the comp plan zone change element of the property at 2170 Walker Road. And specifically the application that there's a proposed zone change in comp plan amendment to apply multifamily designation to the southern 6 acres of, this property here at 2170. In terms of the existing comprehensive plan designations of the property, the large property is developing residential. And then the smaller property west of Walker is single-family residential. And upon annexation, the annexation request, sorry about this jumping forward is really sensitive. So in terms of the proposed zoning, they're looking to change the southern 6 acres of the property at 2170 Walker Road to multiple family residential comp plan designation as shown here, and then as well as for zoning, the southern portion of the property would be RM2 to correspond to that multifamily zoning. The remaining 12.49 acres of the property at 2170 Walker Road would be residential agriculture, which would be just the normal zone that would be given to it automatically upon annexation into the city based on its comp plan designation. And the property at 4893 Sunnyview, which is, the small one here, because of its single family comp plan designation, it'll automatically be given a single family residential zoning designation. Sorry about this, folks. So in terms of the properties involved, total is 18.91 acres, 18.49 for the property at 2170 Walker, and then the remaining square footage for the property at 4893 Sunnyview. The property is, they're flat. The topography is flat. There are no map landslide hazards present on the site. There are existing homes on both properties, and on the property at 2170 Walker, there are farm buildings that are associated with it from its previous use. And then for the property at 4893 Sunnyview, there's a house and several accessory structures to the house. And the annexation includes not only the properties, but also the portions of the adjacent right-of-way of Walker Road, which is down at the southwest corner. There's a small portion that's not within the city, so this annexation would bring that in as well. And then also all of the right-of-way of Sunnyview from the Walker Road, Sunnyview intersection over to the east to Corden Road, which is the urban growth boundary.
About the Corbin Road, is that all?
Corden Road is outside the urban growth boundary, so yeah, we could not annex that. So. And that will still remain in the county jurisdiction. There is a small area of map landslide hazards present on the site. I'm not sorry, landslide hazards, but oh my gosh. No, the arrows they're not working. So
Depends, it's not his laptop, so.
there we go. Actually, here we go. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be better the next one, I swear. So now the arrows are working. Okay, so in terms of the the wetlands, there are no map wetlands or waterways on the property. However, there are mapped hydric soils, which are wetland type soils located near the northwest portion of the site. As you can see, it's the green band or hydric soils. And so there is the potential for wetland areas to be present in that area. So upon future development of the property, they will need to conduct a, do delineation or enlist a wetlands specialist to identify whether there are any wetlands there, and if there are, they'd have to do a delineation and then mitigate those if necessary based on the future development of the property. But that's not really subject to the annexation tonight. That's down the road as the property develops in the future. So in terms of the comp plan zone change proposal, the staff report identifies the applicable criteria and is identified in the findings in the report. Both the comp plan and zone change meet the criteria for approval. The proposed residential or multifamily residential comp plan designation and corresponding multifamily zone for the southern 6 acres is equally or better suited than the developing residential comp plan and RA zone, so it would otherwise apply to the property. It provides for efficient use of land within the UGB by allowing higher densities than would otherwise be realized. The property is near transit. There's a transit Route 5, Center Street, located just to the southwest of the property. So, easy access to 15-minute transit service. It is near, to the north, Cesar Chavez Elementary School and near Brown Road Park. And the property is also, will be served by a future neighborhood park 34 in the Parks Master Plan. When the property comes forward for further development in the future, they'll need to do an urban growth area preliminary declaration, and through that process, it'll be determined, how much parkland would be necessary on the property to meet that park need. So the property is near parks, near transit, and even though it is not, near commercial services, their closest ones would be on Lancaster to the west. It does meet the policies of the comp plan for siting of multifamily residential, which is intended to be distributed throughout the community, providing a diversity of housing types throughout the city. And it is near a major transit route. It's near services for parks and schools. And it is on an arterial street, which is Sunnyview, and near in the Budding Cordon Road, which is a parkway. So it meets all those policies. The property is within the NOLA, North Lancaster Neighborhood Association. We did receive comments from the Neighborhood Association expressing opposition to the proposed comp plan amendment and zone change for the southern 6 acres of the property, primarily due to the impact of having multifamily land in this predominantly single-family designated area. There were several concerns raised about increased traffic congestion on Walker Road, and there was a desire to see an additional connection from the development to Sunnyview Road in the future to help alleviate the impact of traffic on Walker Road. And there was a concern about a lack of reliable transit and essential services in the area, and then concerns about impact on school capacity. In terms of school capacity, the school district was notified of the proposal. They indicated that there is capacity to accommodate the proposed development based on their projected, future student enrollment at the site. Based on the number of the density that could be realized based on the zoning that would apply. And the applicants did conduct a traffic impact analysis as part of this proposal, and it identified that there won't be any significant adverse impacts to the traffic system in the area, and it won't degrade the level of service. And therefore, no conditions of approval were specifically recommended for this. And in the comp plan, even though this is an area that is predominantly single-family residential at this time, the comp plan does envision that multifamily land be, distributed throughout the city and not concentrated in particular areas. And because the site is on an arterial street, it's near transit, near schools, near parks, it does meet the policies for siting multifamily residential land, in this area. And with that, staff would recommend that the Planning Commission adopt the facts and findings of this report and recommend to the City Council that the appropriate comp plan designation and zoning for the property would be multiple family residential and a corresponding RM2 zone. Thank you.
Other questions from the commission?
I have a question.
Commissioner Bott, Vice President Bott, please.
Thank you. Am I correct in thinking that if we, with the annexation of that portion of Sunnyview into the city, that access from that road and its an appropriate street improvement would be included in future development?
Correct. It would be subject to the city's jurisdiction and the city standards for what type of access would be allowed onto it.
Okay, and we would wait until that development comes forward to talk about those conditions?
So, the southern portion that would be multifamily residential zoned, they would have to go through site plan review as well as design review, and then also an urban growth area preliminary, declaration. So there are future land use approvals that we'll have to go through that will be noticed, and that is the more appropriate place to apply, boundary street improvements and access requirements.
Hello. I'm curious about the widening of Cordon Road. Where are the 4 lanes going to be?
Well, that would be something that would need to be addressed at the time of future development. And if you saw in the comments from Marion County,
Mhm.
they, really, are recommending, and they put a comment in there that they're going to want the developer to enter into an improvement agreement with Marion County for the development of the frontage along, Cordon Road. And so the right of way would have to, depending on where the center line is, and if it's deficient, it would have to come from, both sides. Generally, if it's in the city, we get the right of way. If it's deficient from both sides, of the road. And then, so the right of way is dedicated, and then they do their half street improvements.
Bryce, what is the quality or the rating of the existing road, Walker Road?
Yeah, Walker, it's a local street in terms of the classification or level of service are you talking about?
I guess what I really want to know is, are there curbs and sidewalks?
No, not currently along the full frontage, so this development would be required to put in boundary street improvements, which would include, curb, sidewalk, streetscape, landscape on the development side on Walker and Sunnyview and Cordon, yeah.
If I were renting a home there and I wanted to walk over to Cesar Chavez School, would there be a sidewalk for me to walk on?
Across Walker Road, a dedicated one. I believe there is one further to the north. There's speed bumps, and then there is a pedestrian connection that goes, from the west to the east, but it's near the elementary school.
So if I'm in the new FM1 zone, oh, that was an FM1, sorry,
FM1,
that's my vision.
FM2.
With the mixed, yeah, if I'm in the multifamily, I would cross the street and then walk north to get to the.
You just go north.
Oh, I can't go north. There's a continuous sidewalk.
Yes, they would put in a boundary street along their frontage.
But including what would then be the developing residential or the.
There would be a subdivision that would, there's a subdivision that would be potentially proposed on that section of the site. A subdivision that would potentially include single family attached and detached. So the subdivision would do boundary streets, and then the multifamily would have its boundary.
The canvas done first and the subdevelopment comes years later. Is there going to be a street? Is there going to be a sidewalk that connects the elementary to the multifamily?
So in order to create, it's one big lot today, so in order to create the multifamily parcel, that's going to have to be more than likely included in the subdivision. And so as part of that subdivision, there would be a boundary street improvement.
All right, I'm gonna ask one more time, although I think you told me the answer.
Yes, there would be a connection. With the subdivision, there'd be a
With the
condition,
subdivision,
there'd be a
right.
condition to do a boundary street with
So-
the subdivision.
If the multifamily comes first, living the multifamily, and they want to go on the sidewalk to Cesar Chavez School, and there's not a subdivision belt, will there be a sidewalk?
Well, the question would be, would they be even to be able to come in, would they come in for a multifamily development just on that southern half on a 18.49 acre site? That would create problems for how we apply the development standards in terms of development site landscaping and everything. So it really behooves them to needing to create a lot, that's specific to the boundaries of that RM2 property in order to further develop it. And so in order to create that lot, unless they just did a partition first, and then, to create two parcels, one multifamily, one residential agriculture, which that would be a possibility. Then if they did that, they got the partition plat done, and then they did the multifamily first, then there would be a gap. But if they're doing a subdivision, just one land division process to establish the subdivision lots plus the multifamily lot, there would be a boundary street requirement for the subdivision altogether. And there would be then, unless there was a deferral of the construction of the boundary street for the multifamily until it's developed, there would be.
That.
Okay.
Okay. So then, can we as the planning commission condition the approval of the annexation on the particular type of division that the applicant is going to use?
Well, the role of the commission tonight is to make a recommendation to the council in terms of the appropriate zoning. And so zone changes can have, conditions on them. The comp plan amendment cannot, but zone changes can be conditioned. But, it's something that would be addressed typically through the development process and not necessarily does not need to be addressed at the time of this comp plan zone change.
A lot of pressure over the past few years. Sidewalk, street safety issues. The fact that they keep getting deferred. I have a slightly different view on that one, on when it's appropriate.
For Laurel with our development.
And Ms. Christian's gonna weigh in, please do.
Thank you. Laurel Christian, infrastructure planner. So our code actually requires us to essentially use what we call complex rules. So that establishes what the proportionate impact of the development is and allows us to condition that. So typically that generally includes frontage of the portion of the site that's being developed. So if this came in for a partition to say to create the two properties, it's more than likely that we would condition frontage improvements on each parcel at the time of their development for a large complex like this. Looking at the kind of Google Street View, and I apologize, Bryce has my laptop, so I'm on my phone. There are sidewalks along the western side of Walker that extend all the way up to the elementary school, and then there's a safe crossing. So if the multifamily development were to go first, then they would be able to use that improved crossing at Sunnyview and Walker, which would be improved with ADA ramps as part of that development, and then walk along the sidewalks along the western side to get to the school. And then once the single family subdivision were to occur, then those boundary street improvements would happen at that time. The boundary street improvements, there have specific triggers. So in our code, we have things that do require boundary street improvements and things that don't. Zone change is not specifically listed in that kind of list of things that triggers boundary street improvements. So you would have to find some other kind of criteria of approval on the comp plan zone change that would that you would make that finding for. Though we generally would not recommend that type of condition be placed on a zone change, and that the more appropriate time would be at time of development of the lot.
Yeah, I had a few questions. So I've seen on some developments, they do an actual traffic signal warrant analysis. And they use that to then determine if a traffic signal should be installed at a location. I see lots of traffic counts for peak hour and stuff, but I don't actually see a warrant analysis. I know,
On plan zone change, that's not something we're looking at.
Okay.
Yes, so the applicant did submit a full traffic impact analysis as part of their application package. However, what we are looking at for the comp plan zone change is only the transportation planning rule analysis, which is embedded in that TIA.
Yeah.
To look at the current zoning and what their potential traffic impact would be, the proposed zoning, and make sure that there's no significant impact in going up to that higher zoning. So with the subdivision is when the traffic impact analysis would be required, or the multifamily development. But at this point, we're not looking at traffic signal warrants. We're just looking at those transportation planning rule analysis requirements, which have been met.
Okay. And so at the point where, say, development does happen on that, say the whole lot, they would have to look at traffic signal warrants when they do that as part of the TIA?
Yes, as part of the traffic impact analysis that was done with each individual development, we would scope to see what what intersections they would be looking at to see if they meet that warrant for traffic signals.
Okay, cool. And then I had a second question. So I think it's Transportation Planning Rule 830 requires enhanced review for transportation projects to add general purpose lanes onto arterials. I think in this case, Corden Road. Would we be subject to, would Marion County be subject to that enhanced review if this development goes through and adds another lane onto Corden Road?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so say if a development happens and they dedicate roadway space and then they build the project with an extra lane without that review, Marion County would be the one liable and not the city for approving the development with the extra lane?
I'm not familiar with that specific TPR OAR analysis that you're citing.
I can read you the ORS or OAR and
Yeah, I think that would probably be a question for the city traffic engineer, who will review the development at, when they come in for an application and the TIA, and look at what improvements would be required to Corden Road.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Other questions? If not, let's move to the applicant then.
Good evening. My name's Brandy Dalton. I'm with Multitech Engineering, and I'm here tonight representing the applicants for the large piece. We do not represent the enclave parcel that's presented tonight. Bryce did a great job summarizing, and with all the questions answered, he answered a bunch of my stuff that I was going to mention anyways. But what you have before you, you have a property that is looking to be annexed into the city with a comp plan zone change. At this time, we don't know how that's going to look. We did provide a concept plan, but obviously that can change. So the northern portion, they are looking at doing a subdivision, and the southern portion, they're looking at doing a multifamily development. We don't know what that looks like at this time, but it could be 90 units to 186. We just don't know how that'll all work out. The comp plan did trigger a transportation report, and it is in the packet. And if you read it, there are no mitigations being required at this time with the comp plan zone change. But as you know, and you're familiar with land use, that this is just the first step. And all the work for us actually comes afterwards. So we're looking to get it annexed and a comp plan zone change. After this, we come in for a subdivision, site plan review, along with a UGA. And all of that's going to determine, especially the UGA, our boundary street improvements, as Bryce went over, our infrastructure, our utility connections, how this whole process and project is going to work. So right now, tonight, we're looking to get it annexed. This is a location that needs this type of housing, and that's why the needed housing was established, to find areas that need a mixed use of housing. So this area does have majority of single family zone property. That's why it's perfect for a new type and a needed type of housing in this area. So right now, that's what we're looking at, is annexation with a comp plan zone change. However, we did look at adjacent property owners' concerns, and it was traffic and access. And we don't disagree with the access issues that they brought up. I did contact Bryce today to see how Public Works feels about us having access onto Sunnyview Road. So that'll be determined by Public Works, and that'll be something for them to answer. If they allow us access onto Sunnyview, then when we go to design the multifamily site, that'll be something that we'll be able to do, provide access there and additional access to maybe alleviate some of the traffic concerns on Walker Road. So our next steps will require us to work with Marion County, City of Salem Public Works staff, our engineers, and our clients to make sure that all that works. And we're going to have lots of requirements and things that we're going to have to do before we can even move on to the next stage. So with that, I'm here tonight to answer any questions. I have our lead engineer here as well, Mark Grins, to answer any questions you might have. And so that concludes anything I have to say.
Questions?
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. I think, are there any public comments on this application? Anyone have any public comments while we get the sheet? Yeah, okay. I don't have your names yet. Would one of you come up? Whichever one wants to go first. And please identify yourself and where you live or your ward.
Oh, my name's Robin Marshburn, and I'm, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I live at 2585 Walker Road. My wife and I have been there for 29 years, right across from the school. So I'm actually familiar with the review and approval of planning projects. I was a city planner for, excuse me, my voice is going, in California. Then I was a transportation planner for ODOT for 21 years. So, but regarding tonight's agenda item, I know you guys are talking about approving the annexation comp plan amendment and zone change, but we're concerned about the traffic impacts to from the subsequent project. And we, the residents on Walker Road and nearby streets, will be directly impacted by the proposed residential development. And we're very concerned that all the traffic generated by the development looks like it's going to be on Walker Road, because that's what I looked at the traffic impact analysis, and it shows 2 access roads onto Walker Road. So that's what, we're based our concerns on. And I'm glad to hear the applicant, mention that they will work with Public Works to see if there's possible to get a access road off Sunnyview. But so in the TIA, they mentioned that it would, the development would add 1,560 vehicles per day to Walker Road, and that's about double the amount of the traffic. That would double the traffic on our street. So that's quite a significant increase. Just so you guys understand what's going on in the neighborhood there, I just saw it again tonight. Cordon Road is starting to get backed up, and that Sunnyview Cordon Road intersection. And like so many times it backs up the the southbound traffic backs up. And then, so cars turn on Carolina. It's backed up sometimes all the way to Carolina to the north. So cars cut off on Carolina, and then they, they turn right on Carolina and then left on Walker Road and use our street as a cut through. And so we're seeing that traffic now, besides the school traffic. So, and then this on top of all that, it's just a lot. And so I had mentioned in my comments that it looks like the project will not warrant a traffic signal at Sunnyview. So I think I misspoke. Now I understand that that has not been evaluated yet. But if there is not a traffic signal built at Sunnyview and Walker, then that stop sign is going to get backed up quite a bit for cars trying to get onto Sunnyview or cars on Sunnyview trying to turn onto Walker Road. So we're asking the commission to require during site plan or subdivision approval that the development include an access road on Sunnyview. In addition to the 2 access roads on Walker Road. This could also, be helpful, beneficial for safety. I think in case there's something, say like a fire or something, but if you have more access around such a huge parcel like that, it's better, it's easier for the residents to get in and out of the area. Okay. Yeah, it's just that we think the traffic impacts of this project would be overwhelming to Walker Road, and our neighborhood livability would be severely degraded. So I went around and I got a petition. I have residents from 45 houses on the streets that would be primarily affected by this project: Walker Road, Capistrano Court, and Sarah Court. And everyone feels the same about the traffic, that it would be just too much on our street. So in closing, I just want to ask you guys to consider that additional access.
No, one second, sir. Are there any questions for Mr. Marshburn? Just one.
Me.
Next, two. The first, in terms of, is it Walker Street?
Walker Road.
Walker Road.
Yeah.
What are you perceiving in terms of traffic speed?
Well, with this, a couple of years ago, the city put in some speed bumps, so it's better than it used. It's a half a mile straight road with no stop signs, so cars were flying.
That's what I was.
Years and years, but now it's the speed bumps, I think, could have been a little bit taller, but it's significantly slowed down the traffic, so it's tolerable now.
And the queuing in terms of being able to turn onto Cordon Road from Sunnyview? That backing up?
Turning, tell me again,
If you're on Sunnyview and you want to for right or left.
on a Cordon?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think the queuing's bad at all right now.
Okay.
I haven't seen it more than just a few cars, actually.
That's very helpful. I appreciate it. Thank you. I believe we're now on to, is it Mark Green? Oh, I'm sorry. No.
I'm looking at the map and I'm trying to figure out where Carolina, is that the street that they cut through?
It's to the north of the school. There's a vacant property to the north of the school. And then the next intersection with Cordon Road is Carolina.
Okay, thank you.
We'll ask Bryce to put this on the screen when he comes back, so you can take another look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Sorry about that. Commissioner
That's
Heller.
right.
All right, Mr. Green,
Granted, I'm part of the design team.
part of the design team, and you don't want a second go at, no, I'm kidding. Okay.
I might speak as.
That true for you, Brandy?
This is.
That's Randy. You're testing, okay. Gosh, I'm so sorry. So we're down at Tiffany. Thank you. Ms. Otis, apologies.
Evening, Tiffany Otis, 2285 Walker Road, and I live directly across from this property. Historically speaking, this property was owned by the Roth family for Roth's IGA from fresh farm to market and is now being sold, as you know, for the development. I've lived at the address for 22 years, and we have lost 3 vehicles due to traffic flying down the street. You asked about speed. They go more than 25. 25 residential, 25 for the school zone, and they go more than that. The traffic backup that Mr. Marshburn has already brought to your attention comes all the way down past my street at times. We have had to have the U.S. Postal Service put into Washington, D.C. about a route change for timing because it was gridlocked and he could not deliver our mail. Our mail had to go to a multi-unit mailbox location. Both mailbox locations have been taken out of the sidewalk by accidents of cars flying down the street and not staying on the street and jumping the sidewalk and taking out the mailbox units. I submitted my letter to you along with pictures. Did the pictures come through?
It's the text.
Okay. Okay. I wish I would have known that. I would have brought them tonight. Nobody told me. However, the pictures show for my daughter's car being totaled, that the vehicle that totaled her car that took out the mailbox landed in my neighbor's yard. So traffic is a significant concern. You have families walking their children to the elementary school, not just for the Monday through Friday, but for other things that happen, like the basketball games that they rent out, the quinceañeras that go and practice on campus, the park that is used 24/7 for the families in our neighborhood. We do have a very active neighborhood because we live in a school zone. So that's one of the biggest concerns. I don't want to lose another car. We have cars already that park on our side of the street, which on the western side. I am the sidewalk side of the street. The sidewalk had to be improved and extended from the western side to Sunnyview to accommodate the school. There is no safe crossing from Sunnyview to Walker Road. I was on the parent-teacher group from Chavez, and it was proposed and we talked about safety crossing, and there was no safety crossing. So now you've just impacted that yet again for the families that live on the other side of Sunnyview. So I just implore you to recognize the amount of units, whether it be an apartment building or houses combined, how this traffic is going to impact. And if you go put an outlet at Hoffman, which Mr. Marshburn suggested, and I hear is being talked about, without a signal yet, that you're going to have that many more cars backed up to try to leave to go to work, and then coming and going of the school day, along with delivery trucks, et cetera, that I initiated in my letter for concern. So I know this is inevitable. I am your past federal funded worker for your CDBG and Home Dollar, and I currently work for the state of Oregon for the LIHTC for affordable housing. So I get it. I know the governor's executive orders, and I'm not here to say that I'm anti, but I'd much rather see middle housing go up, if you could hear me tonight about that, and see duplexes, triplexes go up instead of more apartment buildings, because you need to have middle housing for people to come up and out of the apartment system and then eventually move into homes and use, their funding that way to be able to own a home someday.
Sorry, so the difference of traffic volumes between the single family proposed development, say if it was all single family and the multifamily, was there a issue that you had with the change in volume?
Yeah, I think it would, because I think families today, if they don't have good access to the Chariots bus system, and it can take an hour, riding the bus. I know you take a bike, so I think 100-unit apartment complex versus breaking that into maybe 30 more homes or using duplexes and triplexes would take some of that volume count down instead of doing, potentially 2 cars per, and I know that we have changed the parking space rules, but then where are they going to park? They're going to park on their streets. They're going to park on my street just because they have a car, and then they're going to walk into their neighborhood. You see it all over. Colonia Libertad out by Kubler and Corden, you go onto their main street, and it is up and down an unsidewalked road access, and they are parked up and down that road. So I fear that that would be a concern if we have an apartment complex on top of the multifamily homes, single-family homes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just one quick one. Is your sidewalk directly up against the street? Is there a buffer? Is there a planting strip?
Yeah, there's a planting strip.
Okay, so you've got like the street and then 5 to 7 feet of the planting strip and then. Okay.
5 to 7 feet, that's stretching it, but no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't believe we have a request to hold the record. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, did you want to do that now? Yeah, I'm sorry, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the protocol. I appreciate that. A little bit more exercise for you today. I know you walked down here. Could you put up the, just the location of the. Ms. Otis, would you be willing to point out where your house is? Would you be comfortable with doing that in a public record? Sure.
I will apologize, this does not extend all the way to the north, as was discussed earlier, but it, it does,
The street commissioner Heller was asking about, is that above?
It's above, yes, beyond the.
So we're seeing lines queue up from above that all the way down to Sunnyview. Thanks for willing to do that.
Yeah, so this is a pass-through
Mhm.
from Walker Road to Green Tree in the back. That's my property right there.
Okay. Thank you. And so you parked there and you've had drivers coming by and sideswiping or.
Yes, yes,
Right
sir.
there. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that information.
Yeah, we've lost 3. For travel alongside of our driveway along that pass-through, so that we park one of our cars there. So replacing cars.
Other questions?
I was wondering what the width is of the street surface of Walker Road is, and if that would be widened if development came in.
Question, would you like to answer that question?
Yes, I just need to do a quick look at the. Sorry, I didn't have it off the top of my head. So Walker Road currently has a 30-foot wide improvement width. So that it kind of varies between 28 and 30. So our standard is 30 for a local street. So when they do their boundary street improvement, they would widen to the overall 30 width, and then they would put curb, landscape strip, and sidewalk on the development side of the street. So it's potential that there would be a little bit of widening, but for the most part, it looks to meet that 30-foot standard. It just doesn't have the curb and sidewalk and kind of streetscape improvement on the development side.
Okay. If a development came in, would we be able to require some sort of traffic calming on Walker Road itself to mitigate the speed and volume impacts?
This was before you guys a couple weeks ago. I listened to when Kevin Hopman, the city traffic engineer, was here, and you had the presentation from West Salem. So our current program is very reactive. We don't have necessarily in our code requirements for traffic calming devices. Like we've discussed, the street already has speed bumps. So I'm not sure what else the proposal could or would be. It would not be typical that we would require that if it was not identified in the traffic impact analysis. It would probably have to be something that was more voluntary from the applicant because our code doesn't necessarily requirement. The program that we have now is more receiving neighborhood concerns and then kind of reacting to those.
Yeah, I've seen developments in other cities narrow intersections or narrow the cross section of the road, or do chicanes or something like that to either divert cut through traffic or slow people down or stuff like that. So maybe that's something for the applicant to consider.
Please.
Just a question to kind of address a comment that was made as far as public safety and kind of response for fire and police in this with just the two access from a street that sounds like is very busy. Is there, and has speed bumps, like, is that considered as far as the next step when it gets reviewed by public safety, or when does that get reviewed?
The fire department, reviewed it and they had no objections to the proposal. They can serve it. It's a public street. There, so there was no specific objection to the proposal.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just add, when we do a site plan review or a subdivision, the fire department does look at the amount of approved fire department accesses that a development has. So if a multifamily development has a certain number of units, they might require 2 means of fire department access versus 1. But that's just more dependent on the development activity at that time.
I just wanted to say that we did have another person come in who's hoping to testify on this hearing if the planning commission is willing to hear that testimony before we go to rebuttal. I just wanted
Very
to,
much welcome that
Okay.
opportunity. If you
Okay.
could please take a seat, give us your name and either your ward or your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gerardo Sosa, and I live on Sunnyview Road at 4972 Sunnyview Road. I am the second house just before Corden Road. I want to tell you guys about an event that happened a couple years ago around this time of Thanksgiving. I was having a Friendsgiving with all my friends at my house, and we heard a very loud bang. We all came out of the house, and we were witnessing the aftermaths of a crash on Corden and Sunnyview Road. And what I witnessed was multiple people leaving, getting out of a migrant van. These were migrant workers that were coming back home to their families. And fortunately, a lot of them passed away in that accident. And so my concerns with this development are that the traffic on Sunnyview and Corden, there are quite a few accidents that occur yearly. And I would like to see, before this development goes up or at the time of this development getting its C of O, that there are improvements to Corden Road and Sunnyview. Another one of my complaints is that I do see vehicles backed up in order for me to leave the house on Sunnyview. Me being the second house from Corden, there's often times where I cannot turn left to go west onto Sunnyview, and sometimes to go east on Sunnyview as well. My neighbor wasn't able to be here with us, but he is closest to Corden, and he has a very hard time turning either left or right onto Sunnyview to get onto Corden or to go west towards Lancaster. And so those are some of the things that I see living so close to that intersection, is that there definitely needs to be some attention, whether it be longer turn lanes. I know in the traffic impact report that they acknowledged that the turn lanes weren't long enough, and that is something that needs to be addressed. Also mentioned earlier was there is no pedestrian crosswalk from Sunnyview to get across from Sunnyview on the south side to the north side. So that is also a consideration that should be put in, whether there be an intersection light put in at Walker and Sunnyview. Another question I had was the decision to put the multifamily zoning up against Sunnyview, and if it is an option to put it closer to the school. I think type of people that rent the apartments will probably more likely to use playground and the amenities that the school provides in proximity to those apartments. I know that they were talking about the sidewalks being closer, being built before the apartments get placed. Apartments closer to Cesar Chavez, that might alleviate that. Comments to you guys. On Sunnyview.
Yeah, aside from longer turn lanes at Cordon Road and Sunnyview, did you have any specific intersection improvements? Like if you had a dream of what the intersection would look like, what would that look like for you?
I do think there needs to be longer turn lanes and probably more signage on when they start. Just because someone not paying attention to all the constant intersections at Cordon. For example, there was just an intersection placed at Auburn Road, and people that don't use Cordon every day aren't used to traffic changes out there. And so I think especially when construction comes, there's probably more likely to be rubbernecking, people seeing the construction being built. And so definitely more signage and longer turn lanes. What the traffic impact report assessment says about any upgrades to the intersection there and possibly an intersection at Walker and Sunnyview.
I just wanted to mention to you, Marion County put together a report for the Cordon corridor. I don't know if you've looked at that, but they outline a list of projects all along Cordon Road that they're planning to do in some period of time. So it might be interesting for you to look at that.
Questions? Yeah, we appreciate it. What exactly, what this vote is on? I hear it's recommending, is it,
Yes.
what is this vote doing?
Yes, the planning commission's not being asked to weigh in on the annexation of the property. So the property's outside city limits and they're asking to come inside city limits. Normally they would come in as single family, I think, based on our maps. But they're asking for the zone change. So the planning commission is being asked to weigh in on the proposed zoning and give a formal recommendation to the city council to consider the zoning when they decide on the annexation.
Okay, and and if we choose not to weigh in on that issue, nothing precludes the city council from doing the zoning themselves, is that correct?
Your role is to make a formal recommendation. You have to issue a recommendation on
You have
this
to issue a
application.
recommendation.
Yes, on the zoning. So you
But the council's not.
obligated to follow your recommend, no, no,
They can make their
no.
own decision based on the evidence that comes before them.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
the applicants will have an ability to present to the
Yes,
city council.
yes, there will be another public hearing at city council to consider the zoning and the annexation together. Yes.
That's very helpful.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions for Lisa before we go to rebuttal? Any questions to staff? Whether or not it's Lisa.
I won't just say who it's for necessarily, but I guess one question I had is, was there consideration of going to the RM1 zone in lieu of RM2, which would be slightly lower and maybe more appropriate to integrate into the single family residential neighborhood? It would still allow up to 1 to 3 stories, but it might be more appropriate.
Yeah, the density in the RM1 is 8 to 17 dwelling units per acre, and in the RM2, it's 15 to 31. So, in either circumstances in terms of the traffic, it wouldn't have an impact based on the study that was done. That would have been that would be something that the applicant could consider. That was not what was brought forward, under the proposal. And so, based on the criteria and the comp plan, we felt RM2, as the applicant requested, was appropriate and met the criteria.
Other questions? Green? Brandon? All right. I'm gonna need a primer beforehand. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Plan Commission. My name is Mark Grenz and I'm with Multitech Engineering. So I would, sadly, I can tell you I have more history of this Walker Road area than anybody that lives there, because I was one of the engineers that designed all the residential subdivisions that are on the west side of Walker Road and to the north of this in the area there. So I've been around a while. I think that the concerns that have been expressed about Walker Road and the additional traffic, I can see where they come from. I think that one of the things that should be recognized is that when the property develops, and because it's a local street, it's predominantly likely that we will have driveways that face from the new development onto Walker Road. When that happens, that growth and that development will in of itself be a traffic calming mechanism that along Walker Road that will inevitably deter the cut through traffic that they talk about that occurs now, because they won't be able to speed down Walker Road to Sunnyview, because there'll be driveways, there'll be cars, there'll be activity on the Walker Road that's not there today. The improvements that will be made to Walker Road will also make it feel different. And with the development activity there, those two become traffic calming. We'll work with Public Works on looking at some alternative traffic calming measures that can be brought into play in that area. The speed humps that are there now do serve a purpose in that. And at the school there, I think that when it's all said and done, it will feel a lot different, and vehicles will travel a lot differently in there. We have a ways to go in this process, as Brandy pointed out to you, in terms of the land use things that we have to go through in dealing with multiple jurisdictions. Now, it's not just City of Salem and Public Works that we have to deal with. We get to deal with Marion County as well in the development conditions that they think that they want to try to bring to play on the property relative to Corden Road itself and Sunnyview. Now that if you're familiar with the area, you know that further to the south, down in the Auburn to State Street area, there was a development that was just finished out there, and there were improvements made to Corden Road, and there was a multi-use path that was constructed along that project there as part of that. So I would expect that those are the same types of development requirements that Marion County will bring to bear on this project as it goes forward. So there'll be some types of improvements that will happen that will help improve both pedestrian movement as well as vehicular movement along Corden Road in this frontage here. The multifamily site, the way that it's been proposed, is the most appropriate location for multifamily because it is adjacent to to the more higher level streets. And as to whether or not there'll be an access on this from that project onto Sunnyview is, as has been outlined, is a decision that will be entered into with discussions with Public Works to talk about that. So part of that is going to be determining whether or not secondary access from the multifamily site can be provided, or a street can be provided onto Sunnyview and not interfere with the turning maneuvers and movements that have to take place at the Corden and Sunnyview intersection. That was a consideration that played out at the State Street and Corden Road for the East Park Apartments that's going in there, was whether or not there could be another access or what type of access there could be on the State Street from the multifamily. And it was determined that because of the turning movements that are taking place there and the need to have longer turning lanes, as was mentioned with one of the testimonies here tonight, you have to find that place where that access can occur, and that when you try to use it, it's functional. Most likely anything along there might end up being a right in, right out. Then it fits in better with the traffic movements. So, but I think that the getting the annexation process completed, getting the zoning set, I don't think there would be a lot of difference between the different options here. I think that the amount of units that you're going to see there are going to fit that site, and they're going to be appropriate. There are, as part of the subdivision development code that city has, is that since the subdivision would be more than 5 acres, it'd be a requirement for middle housing to be a part of that development. I believe there'd be a minimum of 15% of the units and the lots that are created in there have to be established for middle housing. So you're going to get another blend of housing type that's going to take place in there. So there'll be full sidewalks will be constructed along Sunnyview from Corden to Walker. There'll be sidewalks constructed as part of this development from Sunnyview along Walker all the way to the north end to the school. There'll be pedestrian crossing, ADA type crossing ramps that'll be developed where our new streets would tie into Walker Road, that will tie across from the east side of Walker Road to the west side of Walker Road. That's going to happen. So those aren't there today, but they'll be there, as well as likely some additional improvements that'll take place at the Sunnyview and Walker intersection in terms of providing pedestrian ramps and access across both in an east-west and a north-south direction there. So that's the types of improvements that take place. Development is the means where streets and intersection improvements come from. They don't generally come from other activities unless there's this really serious problem. So development provides those improvements. Development is what's gonna complete things out there and make it feel and function more as it should as a residential area to the north, and with the multifamily there at the intersection of Walker and Sunnyview. So we think it's appropriate. Staff thinks it's appropriate, and we would ask that you would make a recommendation to council that supports the staff's recommendation. So if you have any questions to me, I'd be happy to answer them.
So being the one that did a lot of the design for a lot of these streets out in this part of East Salem, I guess knowing now, just in a lot of parts of the city, we're seeing speeding concerns, traffic fatalities are at record highs. If you went back 20 or 30 years and you changed something about how you would have designed these streets, would you have done anything differently?
Well, Walker Road existed, so it was an existing street. So there wasn't the ability to make changes to Walker Road at the time that the subdivision development activity started out there. There's some significant drainage. There's ways that meander through there, part of the East Salem service district. And so those had to be traversed and worked around And so a lot of the configuration of the streets that are out there were mandated just simply by the circumstances that were there. So there are a few streets that have to take their access off of Walker that don't have another way to go. There's at least one street, you come off of Walker and then you parallel Walker that goes up to like San Francisco, and there's streets that continue to connect to the west that allow access to get over to into the 47th and make its way back down. And then there's a green tree that comes down and meanders through, that comes down, parallels Walker ways, and then turns and heads over and ties into Sunnyview west of Walker. So there are avenues for people to maneuver out there. Walker Road is not the only access for the majority of now. Like I said, there are a few streets that they solely take their access. They're cul-de-sac, dead-end street neighborhood areas that take their access off of Walker. But most of them have some alternatives for how to get out of there.
I'm just trying to say, like, say if you were able to have designed all these streets, like the cross-section layouts or the width of the paved surface or stuff, is there anything that you would have done differently to kind of mitigate a lot of the traffic safety concerns or the speeding and stuff that we're seeing across the city?
Well, most of the cross-section configuration of the streets are mandated to us by public works standards. So
Yes.
we don't get to make.
We're
those
well aware.
decisions. And until recent times, there was a lot of limitations on the types of traffic calming proposals that could put forth. Now, there's been more information generated about how traffic calming designs can help in there. And a lot of those play out in streets that don't have a lot of driveway access onto them. But driveway access is, again, where you have activities present and you have cars parked along there. So you're going to take a 30-foot wide street, you're going to have parking that's allowed on both sides. What you end up with generally is about an 18-foot travel area between. So it forces people to slow down just in and of itself. It's enough room for emergency vehicles to pass through, but it does limit how fast cars can pass each other. And so it does take some courtesy to do that. And so I think that you'll find that will change the character. It will feel calmer realistically, and traffic will function and act calmer.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'm going to let you have the seat, and I believe we can close the hearing. Is that correct?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. And move on to deliberation. We need to start with the motion from the Vice President.
I move that we approve case number ANXC 762 CPC ZC 25-01 as submitted and recommended by staff.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second so we can move on for a conversation? A second from Commissioner Levin. Thank you very much. All right, any discussion among us? Commissioner Heller?
Well, I'm still concerned about the trap. Is it?
Turned on.
It's on.
It's
Okay,
green.
okay. I am concerned about the traffic. And I think that Commissioner Fott's recommendation of like a RM1 zone would be more appropriate, more like the neighborhood it is now. So I don't. I'm not going to vote yes. I'm going to vote.
Are there other comments or questions? Your name was invoked, so go ahead.
Yeah. I do want to just clarify that I wasn't specifically making a recommendation for the change. I just was curious what options were considered and how RM2 was landed on. I think for me, this is the evolution of development, and as we know, housing is a critical need. I think that the combination and mix of housing that is likely going to be proposed at a future time is an appropriate and expected transition for the neighborhoods. I feel more confident knowing that that Sunnyview will be annexed in and that having an additional access point from that street will be certainly a mitigating opportunity that I hope is taken at that time. So generally, I'm supportive of it, or at least of the annexation, and look forward to discussing the development when it comes in front of us.
So let me ask, Lisa, would this, I guess, know what kind of proposal it is, but let's just say it's a site review plan. This would not come before us, is that correct?
No, site plan review doesn't come before the planning commission currently. Subdivision, those are both staff decisions. Subdivisions are appealable to the planning commission. So on appeal, you would hear that case.
Okay. Other comments? Lynn and then Commissioner Frybeck?
I believe that the conversation regarding the traffic concerns at this point in time are a step away from what is in front of us. That the real issue as far as road, street design, traffic calming, et cetera, is something that is taken up at a later date, and that the city is well aware of our concerns. So I'm good.
Thank you. Sorry, Frybeck.
Yeah, I just want to say I normally tend to agree with Commissioner Levin. I think you know, for a lot of these land use cases, transportation has come up as the number one thing that we hear from people about, and I just might think it might be a good thing to share that we're supposedly starting our transportation system plan phase 2 process soon. In the last planning commission meeting, a representative from the West Salem Neighborhood Association came and provided a really well done PowerPoint presentation all about their neighborhood associations kind of plans and desires for the next TSP. I think it would be really cool if other neighborhood associations maybe worked with West Salem Neighborhood Association, or just maybe if all the neighborhood associations came together with a kind of a wish list for the transportation system plan. I think that would be really good because that's something that'll come in front of the planning commission. But as far as this goes, we really need housing really badly. And I know denser development has a the burden, I think it's like per person impact on infrastructure. You can serve more people with the same amount of infrastructure, or I guess more people use less infrastructure if it's denser, and it has a less of an impact on the city's general fund when we come to replace a lot of this stuff in 50, 60 years. And so as far as that's concerned, you know, it's, to me, it has a fiscal benefit to go denser because the alternative is going even further out, and then we have more streets to repave and more water lines to replace and more stuff to redo later. So I will be a yes on this.
Commissioner Tapp, please.
Yeah, so I will also be a yes. I don't love how car dependent this area seems to be. So putting dense housing, it's on there. It's on. Get closer. Yeah, I don't love how car dependent this area seems to be. I love the idea of density in general, and I know that our city is certainly ramping that up. Our state is ramping that up, and there's a huge need. But there aren't. It doesn't seem like there's very many walkable jobs or services in that area, which is disappointing. But because of our zone changing processes that are ongoing, there's more possibility for that coming online all the time. And I just wanted to acknowledge that it always breaks my heart a little bit when we're turning something that is making food into something else that's irreversible. So we're turning farmland into housing. But given the location, I think it really does make sense if this was on the other side of Cordon Road, which wouldn't be in our city, but I would be a no, but I think, yeah, given how it looks right now, yeah, I'm a yes.
Thank you. Please, Commissioner Rodan.
I would second kind of what's been said, and just the location to the school and services there, I think has some benefit, as was spoken with the multifamily housing and apartment complex. So I would be a yes for this.
I will just say that I appreciate the neighborhood members coming here. I think that was very helpful testimony. I too am gonna vote yes, and I'm primarily gonna vote yes because I think the criteria has been clearly met. And that is my obligation, is to vote when the criteria is met. It's a little frustrating that we are not in a regulatory position to impose some conditions or make additional recommendations. I think you had a very good point. I would encourage you, as this moves forward in the process, to stay engaged, because that's going to be where you can be more effective than you can be here today with us. And I'd encourage you to bring the same concerns to the city council and continue to have conversations with the applicants. They seem very receptive to have a conversation. And so I will at this point call for a vote. Jennifer?
Commissioner Fott?
Aye.
Commissioner Fryback?
Aye.
Commissioner Heller?
No.
Commissioner Livin?
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes?
Aye.
Commissioner Slater?
Aye.
Commissioner Tev?
Aye.
Commissioner Vera Brindell?
Aye. Motion passes. Yeah.
Read the criteria.
All right. All right, if you'd please read the criteria for the next item, please.
This is a public hearing to consider case number ANXC CPC ZC 2502 for property located at 5524 Skyline Road South. The criteria applicable to this hearing are listed in the Salem Revised Code under chapters 260.010 G2 annexation, 64.025 E2 minor comprehensive plan map amendment, and 265.005 E zone change. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing with statements or evidence sufficient to afford the Planning Commission and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the conclusion of the hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony. The Planning Commission will then either continue the public hearing or leave the record open for at least 7 days.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bishop again.
Good evening. Thank you again, President Slater, members of the commission. This is the second annexation with comp plan zone change before you this evening. This one is for property at 5524 Skyline Road South. Again, it's an annexation with a comprehensive plan map amendment to multifamily residential from what would be a developing residential comprehensive plan designation if it were to just follow the normal designation that it currently has. And then a zone change to RM1, which is our lower density RM multifamily zone in the city. Currently, it's designated urban transition 5 in the county and single family or developing residential on our comp plan. So the property is shown here with in orange. It is southwest, or South Salem, and it's on Skyline Road. It has a small amount of frontage on Skyline. Comparatively with the property dimensions itself, it is a small area of frontage. And there is an existing multifamily development that is also zoned RM1 to the west that was annexed not too long ago and then approved through the site plan review process. So, and then around there you have predominantly, again, single-family residential neighborhoods that are zoned RS. And then Skyline is again immediately abutting the property to the west, and then Davis Road is shown in yellow. That's a collector street, a little bit to this further to the south from the property. And Skyline Road is a minor arterial, so it's very similar to the property on Walker that we just heard. It's again, you know, Sunnyview was a minor arterial, so is Skyline. So a higher classification of street where the proposed multifamily would be located. And then also back on this slide, there is the nearest park to the site is Secor Park off to the east there on the right hand side of the image there. Relatively close, not immediately as maybe as close as the other case, but it is an area. So in terms of the existing comprehensive plan designation as they apply to the site and the surrounding areas, there is single family immediately to the east. To the north along Skyline Road, you see pockets of multifamily, for instance, here and further to the north. So Skyline has seen areas of multifamily development along it. And then to the southeast, there is on Davis, there are multifamily complexes and multifamily designated lands. Area does have a little bit more multifamily than and with the proposal, they're looking to change the developing residential comp plan designation to a multifamily designation to match the one immediately abutting to the east or to the west rather. And then in terms of zoning, as I had mentioned, it's Marion County UT5 urban transition. And with the proposal, they're looking to change to RM1, which would be consistent with the RM1 zoning abutting to the west. So the site is 1.94 acres in size. The topography here in South Salem on this side does slope gradually from the northeast to the southwest. So there is a little bit of topography there, but not a significant amount. There are trees present on the site, as can be seen on this slide, you know, in different areas of the site. At this point, we don't require, you know, a specific tree inventory because again, we're just talking about the annexation of the property. Any further future development would have to comply with the city's tree ordinance. And in terms of landslide hazard susceptibility, there are no specific areas mapped directly on the property, but there are, you know, some areas to the south which are shown by the green polygons on the slide there. But there are no slide hazards present on the site. And in terms of the annexation territory, because this is a property that is completely an enclave, so it is surrounded by city limits on all sides, including the right-of-way of Skyline Road, which is currently in. So this annexation would just involve the property and no additional right-of-way annexation would be needed. As identified in the staff report, the proposal does meet the comp plan and zone change approval criteria. This is another multifamily zone site, proposed multifamily zone site that would be next to another multifamily designated zone property. You know, the proposed RM2 zoning was not chosen by the applicants in this case, but a lesser RM1. The RM1 zone matches the property to the west, and based on the narrow, long configuration of the site, a smaller density would be appropriate to that because there are limitations, you know, based on just the physical configuration of the property that may not be suitable for a higher density multifamily residential zone. Again, the site is located on a minor arterial street, which is a requirement or a policy in the comp plan that, you know, encourages multifamily development to be located next to the busier streets. Transit service is to the northeast from the property on Skyline Road. You know, so it's not immediately as close to the property as Walker Road, but it is, you know, less than a half a mile away, you know, to the site. And the proposed RM1 zoning and our multifamily comp plan matches with the designation to the west. And so, you know, we do feel it is compatible with the area and with the policies of the comprehensive plan, and therefore approval is warranted in that respect, or recommendation of approval is warranted in that respect of that designation. In terms of the neighborhood association, it's within the Southwest Association of Neighbors Neighborhood Association, or the Swan Neighborhood Association. We didn't receive any comments from the neighborhood association. We did receive a public comment that is included in the record concerning traffic safety on Skyline, particularly related to the speed at which cars are traveling on Skyline Road. You know, the 45, you know, they're going very fast, and they think, you know, 35 mile per hour speed limit would be more appropriate. Development Services and Public Works staff have responded to that comment in the report. And speed zone can be initiated, by individuals speaking to the neighborhood association and getting the kind of the collective buy-off from the neighborhood association that yes, speeding is an issue. The neighborhood association could then, submit a recommendation to the traffic engineer, and then the traffic engineer could then submit a recommendation to ODOT, because it's ODOT. It is ODOT that regulates speed zones and not the city individually. So by having an individual reach out to the neighborhood association and having the whole group, the neighborhood association, say, hey, I recognize that it's a potential concern, then that could be forwarded to the traffic engineer, and then, a study could be requested. And if it does turn out based on the study that, speeding is an issue, then speed order would be ordered and issued, and then, signs could be placed to reduce the speed. So
You did a good job with that.
So based on the facts and findings of the report, staff would recommend that it does meet the approval criteria for the comp plan and zone change, and recommend that the commission recommend that the council approve a multifamily designation and an RM1 zoning for the property.
Thank you, Bryce. Any questions for Bryce? Nope. Commissioner Rhodes, I see your hand. No, I'm overcompensating from the last hearing. All right, let's hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Brittany Randall. I'm the owner and principal planner of Brand Land Use. Brand, Brittany, Brandy, happens all the time.
Not Brandy. I
Not
apologize.
Brandy, but I get it a lot. Good evening. Thanks for sticking out with me, being second. I think I have less interest than the other application did, which is a bummer, but Bryce always spoils me, and he did a wonderful job, so I didn't even prepare a presentation because I knew he would do it all. Thank you, Bryce. So I just sort of wanted to paint a picture for the future for you guys. We can't submit for development with an annexation application. The only thing we can submit is a comprehensive plan amendment zone change. So I've sort of done this daydream with my client. We've been working on this project for 2.5 years of no fault of the city. It's literally been my client, sort of slow on this whole process, but we went and had a meeting before the neighborhood association. Traffic came up as an issue, as it does. And so we thought, we really shouldn't cram super high density here. But if you look at the property, it's long and skinny and has this weird little tiny frontage onto Skyline. And my firm represented the property owner to the west that did the RM1. And it's this cute little development where there's 4 homes attached, and then there's a space, and then there's 4 more homes attached, and there's a space. They're single story. They really fit with the character of the neighborhood. And my client on this property would like to do something similar. So the minimum density for this site, if you were to grant or recommend approval of the zone change, would be 15.52 units, rounded to 16, that's the minimum. And then the max would be 33, which is that's insane. My client is looking to do 17 units, retaining the existing farmhouse. It's very quaint. He's redone the whole thing. It's beautiful. It's our understanding, I'm not a traffic engineer, but it's our understanding that this would generate less than 300 trips onto a minor arterial. So a traffic impact analysis likely wouldn't be triggered in the future. But this application, we did do the TPR analysis twice. Once when the traffic engineer assumed what they should do, and then second when they found out what they should do. So I think Tony's accepted the terms of the second one that we submitted. Right, Laurel? Yes, okay. And so what we're envisioning for this site are 2 units attached. So it'd be multiple duplexes. Each one would have its own garage, and then a little driveway leading to the garage. Almost like a little lane down the middle so that everybody would be facing out when they're leaving, which is a huge safety concern and a requirement of the code. We would place bicycle parking in individual garages so that, they stay dry and nice inside. You're welcome. So that's just sort of my like broad picture of what he's dreaming of. He has spent no real money on any of these plans until we know if we, are able to pass this stage. But since Bryce did such a great job, I thought maybe I would just future trip with you all about what to expect. So I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Nope. Nope. All right. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak? And did I have that sheet? No. No one on the sheet? Ma'am, did you? If you could give us your name and either your address or your ward, that would be very helpful.
Sandy Walker. Husband and I own 2 homes on Wong Creek Court, which is the east. The fences of all these homes are right against this property.
Okay.
So, we purchased, well, do you want to know any more about me before you start? Did I give you enough?
Go ahead.
So we just own 2 of the properties, and we really, when we were looking for rental properties, we found those, and we thought really nice because it's a fairly quiet neighborhood. It's a real attractive little neighborhood, and we loved the fact that it's open at the back, We met the people that owned the property at that time, and they had a little their little farm in the city, and they really liked it, and I thought they'd stay there for a really long time if they didn't quite live up to that. But so we look at it like kind of green space, quiet, and all the renters, I think, really love that too. I know that ours have. And so we understand, watching all the progress in building and the growing of the city and South Salem in particular of that. We thought eventually someone would want to do something more to that probably. So we're not surprised at that. But we are really concerned about what might be built there because we don't want it to change the character of the property and the neighborhood. It's really, it's all single family homes in there until you get right up to Skyline, and you saw that other development that's a little bit further to the west and the south. So our preference, if we had a choice, would be single-family residences back there because we know Salem needs more housing like that. So we would prefer that, it would be just kind of a carrying on of what's there. But if that is not an option, we would really, really, really like to see ground story apartment buildings or duplexes, and not something that's gonna look over the neighborhood. Really would not be happy with that. So that, I guess those are the main concerns: the quiet, how other places looking over the fence, and just the kind of the nice spacious feeling of being out there. Let's see, I think that's about all I really wanted to express. We're thankful that our voices can be heard. That is really great. And so I know that I'm speaking for, there are 12, I believe 12 homes that back up to that property. So that's quite a few. And I know I'm speaking for most of the others that live in the neighborhood there.
All right, thank you. Before you step down, are there any questions? All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions of staff? Please let's reverse this. No, Mr. Fryback, you go ahead. Yeah.
Bryce, the first question that I have is, what is the minimum square footage for a single family lot in the city of Salem?
4,000 square feet.
Okay. Thank you.
I had a question, just for staff. So say if this was just single family and each one of these homes was on a single lot each, they'd be able to build fourplexes anyway. Is that correct?
Yeah, so in terms of the metal housing standards, you could have a duplex on a 4,000 square foot lot, like a single family, 3 units on a 5,000, or four units, or even a cottage cluster of up to 12 potentially, on a 7,000 square foot lot.
But if you say wanted to put like 3 fourplexes on one lot, it would need to be multifamily?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Are there other questions? What is the height limitation in this zone?
35 feet.
35 feet? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, I will close the hearing and again look to Vice President Fott for a motion. And she will scroll through her document and find the very long string of letters.
Okay, I move to approve case number ANXC 763 CPC ZC 25-02 as recommended by staff.
All right, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Fryback, is there a second? All right, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Fott, please.
I just wanted to comment on, I think broadly speaking, thank you for offering a future glimpse as to what the development might be. It sounds like it will land in a place that is appropriate for the adjacent properties and be a characterful place that will also contribute to our housing needs. So I'm in support of this annexation and zone change.
Thank you. Other comments? Commissioner Levin.
I did a little calculation and the 17 units on the 1.94 acres is almost 5,000 square feet per unit as far as allocation. And if that is in fact the potential development, that's you could realistically have more single-family homes on a simple single-family development than you can with what's being proposed. So I am very happy with the proposal and the potential development.
All right, thank you. Other comments? Commissioner Fryback.
Seconded.
Okay. Seconding Commissioner Levin's comments. All right. So yeah, I guess I would say very much what I just said in the previous hearing, which is, this is a compelling case. It follows the criteria. I don't think we have a lot of options to do anything but approve it. And I'm glad that, not Brandy, Brittany gave us a little glimpse of what it might be. Although I know from other experiences, that's not an obligation. So I'll put that out there as well. And again, I would say the same thing to encourage you to be involved in the next step of this process, which will allow you a greater voice in the decision making. With that, Jennifer, if you want to call the roll.
Commissioner Fott,
Aye.
Commissioner Fryback,
Aye.
Commissioner Heller,
Aye.
Commissioner Levin,
Aye.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Aye.
President Slater,
Aye.
Commissioner Tev,
Aye.
Commissioner Villarreal.
Aye. All right, motion passes. So before we go on to the fun special orders of business, Lisa, can we invite ODOT to have a conversation with us here about speed limits in Salem?
Yeah.
Okay, I know they don't have to come, but we could ask them, is that right? This seems to be kind of a back and forth that we're having a lot here. So it'd be good to hear ODOT's perspective. That'd be great. All right. Special orders of business. Is that a presentation or how are we initiating this?
That's yours. Yep.
I'm happy to introduce the memo. And then for questions, we have the city attorney here. And we also have online our assistant city attorney, Tom
Okay.
Kupani.
All right, Tom was able to join
On
us.
Zoom as well, yes. So we provided a memo and then we updated again today, which we sent out kind of late in the day, but there is a printed copy at your desk and it says updated at the top, just to, if you want to reference that one. So this memo is talking about our subcommittees, So we have the wetlands subcommittee, we have our transportation subcommittee. And it's come to light that those probably are very much maybe our public meetings and that we should be doing some things differently unless we're going to change how the subcommittees work or what their charge is. So I won't get into the legal aspects. That's what our city attorney is here for. But I will just say that in kind of analyzing the situation, we came up with three options really to comply with the state laws. The one would be to change who you're advising. So right now, I think the idea is the subcommittees are meeting on a topic and then coming back and potentially bringing like a recommendation to the full planning commission to consider on that topic. So one thing we could do is to change the charge of the subcommittees and have them advisory to me as the planning administrator who staffs the planning commission. And then, pros and cons, it wouldn't be public meetings, but then I would have the discretion to act or not act on that recommendation. A different thing is we could staff them based on our, staffing woes. I will say all we can commit to staffing would be subcommittee meetings that would happen immediately after a planning commission meeting. That way we can consolidate a lot of the tasks. So the notice would be the same, notice we'd put on the agenda. We'd be Zoom, having on Zoom and YouTube at the same time, and we'd already be taking minutes. So we would maybe do a little recess after the meeting and say, 5-minute break, and then the subcommittee is going to start, and whoever's staying for that would stay, and those meetings would take place immediately after the meeting. Or we could just disband the subcommittee and then just make the items that the subcommittees are talking about official agenda items and have those discussions just during an official committee, or I'm sorry, an official meeting, and just make them agenda items and not have the subcommittees. So those are the options we have. I'm sure you have questions about why we need to follow the rules, and that's why the city attorney is here, and I'll turn it over to him.
Hi, Dan Atchison, City Attorney. I know most of you, but if not, I used to be the Assistant City Attorney for the Planning Commission for a number of years. Commissioner Levine and I back in the day were compatriots there. It's kind of seemed like a way back day for a minute there because there were a lot of folks who were here who were on commission or coming to the commission back then. Anyway, so I'm really apologetic and frustrated that the subcommittee meetings occurred the way they did. So essentially, any governing body of a public body, so planning commission, city council, historic landmarks, all those are governing bodies of the city of Salem, and they're required to comply with public meeting laws. If any of those governing bodies create subcommittees that either make decisions or provide recommendations back to their parent body or to the city council, they are also governing bodies subject to public meetings law. There was a little confusion, I think, when the subcommittee started, that the assumption was that as long as a quorum of the entire planning commission wasn't meeting in that subcommittee format, that public meetings law didn't apply. That is not correct at all. As Lisa noted, I wouldn't call it an exception, but if the subcommittee provides advice solely to staff, it's not providing advice back to another governing body, it's not subject to public meeting law. So on that option, I get a little nervous because, how would that work? If that subcommittee is meeting, talking about issues that, could potentially come before the planning commission, they're going to report back to the planning administrator in what format? Are they going to send a memo and then the planning administrator would discuss it with the entire planning commission? Or are you going to be discussing it at a meeting like this? And it's a real gray area on whether that subcommittee is reporting back to the planning administrator or reporting back to the entire planning commission. So while that's certainly an option, I just need to be careful about how we were to administer that. So going forward, I mean, Lisa has talked about the staffing issues, and believe me, Lisa and I have had discussions about the staffing issues with the planning division as well as other aspects of the city, and I'm frustrated along with you. This is not intended to be a gag order on what the planning commission can discuss and can bring to the table. I think for a lot of you, the reason you joined the planning commission is because you want to have those discussions. You are interested in the topics that come before the planning commission, transportation, wetlands, whatever it might be. I think you can have those discussions. It's just what we can do about it as a staff is limited based on our capacity and limited based on the direction that we get from the city council.
Well, good.
Are we commenting on the options presented now?
Whatever
or-
you'd like to comment on, but this topic, right? This topic, not another topic.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying why it's coming before, or, why it's being brought forward. I think my initial take is that shifting those discussion items back to a work session, where we all are meeting in a regularly scheduled planning commission meeting probably makes the most sense, since there are items that would ultimately have to be discussed with the complete planning commission anyway. That would be my initial thought, is that we're already planning on meeting. If there are certain items we want to talk about, then let's have them as a work session.
Commissioner Fryback.
I was curious about, say, we haven't, I guess when I say we, I mean the folks, I guess now it's just Marissa and I in the transportation subcommittee. We've discussed items and I've put together a presentation that I was hoping I would share, but it sounds like that might not be the best of ideas. But say if that became a regular agenda item, but it was something that was created during a subcommittee meeting that I guess now should have or is considered a public meeting if we present to the commission as a whole, would that present an issue itself?
So what to do about the work that's already been underway with the subcommittees is something we're trying to work through. I think, we're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So there's, probably a lot of good work that's been done. We need to make sure that the public is aware of the work that's been done. So we're going to try to figure out a way to get those issues cured. But certainly if, there's going to be, if a member of the planning commission wants to bring a presentation to the commission that summarizes that work and talks about it, and that's perfectly appropriate.
So if, say, I brought a presentation to the commission and spoke not as a member of a subcommittee, but as a planning commissioner who discussed a topic with a number of other commissioners that didn't constitute a quorum, would that be allowed?
This is like a long George Carlin joke, but I won't get into the details. So as you may be aware, if you've read any local media for the past 9, 10, 11 months, serial meetings are an issue. What constitutes a serial meeting is a moving target. So in my opinion, which may not be gold in all quarters, you're welcome to talk to other members of this commission about commission business. You need to avoid talking to them in a quorum. You need to avoid talking to them in a serial manner. So if you talk to one commissioner and you guys talk about this idea, and that's great, you are not a designated, assuming you are not a designated subcommittee that is itself a governing body. If it's just two commissioners talking about something, and you come back to a public meeting at the planning commission and say, hey, I talked to Commissioner X about this subject and we think this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's not a violation, I believe. OGEC has given versions of advice and guidance on that. They have suggested that you shouldn't talk to each other outside of a public meeting, that it can lead down the road to a serial meeting violation. So the idea is that it's like that Perel commercial, if you guys are that old. I am. So, you know, you talk to one commissioner, the next commissioner talks to another commissioner, and all of a sudden there's an email and 3 other commissioners are on that, and all of a sudden you got a quorum and you got a serial meeting violation. That's the fear. That's the concern. Just talking to 1 or 2 other commissioners and leaving it at that, it is not a violation, and I'm really certain of that. But you need to be careful that you guys know the rules and you're not spreading those communications throughout the commission, and all of a sudden you've got an email chain that's problematic. So, you know, if you want to suspend these subcommittees and say, I'm going to go talk to another commissioner, this is not, you're not being charged to do that by the commission. You were having a conversation with a member of the commission. And at some point, one or both of you come back to the commission and say, hey, you know, we've been talking about this issue and we'd like to talk to the commission about it, and even give a presentation. I think that's fine. If that's something that commissioners want to do, I highly recommend we submit something to OGEC and make sure they bless it before we start doing that, because they have a differing opinion, even amongst their staff, of what constitutes a violation. I have a lot of sympathy for them. The rules are not real crystal clear. They're doing the best they can. Their general counsel was our former deputy city attorney back in the day, and he and I have had some pretty interesting conversations over the past several months. But he's a super smart guy, and he's helping them try to guide through this. And there definitely is a need for legislation to clarify what public meeting rules are. But I really, if we're going to do something like that, we should talk to OGC and make sure they're comfortable with it.
Because my thought is initially it might be the safest bet to disband the formal subcommittees and just talk to each other as commissioners until we get further guidance. And then say if commissioner has a conversation with another commissioner and decides it's a topic worthy of a group discussion, they could bring that to the commission meeting and talk about that as an individual commissioner. I think that would make sense.
If I can respond to that, just to clarify, I think we need to vet that through OGC first. Because you know, the purpose and intent of Oregon Public Meetings Laws is to make sure the deliberations of the governing body occur in public, so the public knows what's going on. Having, you know, wink, wink, having 2 commissioners go off to the side outside of a public meeting and have those discussions and bring them back is real close to having a subcommittee. So I'd want them to say, no, you know, if there's some, you know, random conversations that are happening between members of the commission, and they come back and want to bring that topic to the commission, in my opinion, that's fine. I just want to make sure that they think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it would be good to verify that, but that's just my initial read.
Can you clarify that?
When you're talking about if they want to talk, you know, assuming this is vetted and they talk to each other, we're not talking about quasi judicial land use cases. They still shouldn't be talking to each other about that, right?
Thank you, Lisa. Absolutely. So, you know, there's additional rules that apply to the quasi judicial process. You don't want to be discussing cases with each other, even regardless of a quorum. You know, the parties to that process have a right to know what facts you're relying on and making a decision.
Go ahead,
Just
Commissioner Wentz.
a little concerned with kind of what we're talking about with Commissioner Freibeck. I think if 2 people meet and have a conversation and then bring it before Planning Commission to then kind of have a presentation, that would be kind of the stopping point where then it shouldn't be like private conversations to then come back to public, because that's where we could end up having a sidebar conversation that could then create conflict, correct? Like that could get tricky. If like transportation were to have a presentation and then we all talk about it, and then 2 weeks later, transportation comes back with a different, like not as a committee, but as a topic with a different presentation, like how did that happen? It just seems like it could turn into a web.
Yeah, I agree. That's the concern of having sort of quote informal subcommittees. These are not informal subcommittees. This would be a conversation between a couple of commissioners. It's not something that the commission would be sanctioning or sponsoring. It's just conversations that happen. You know, the idea of serial meetings is not a new concept. It's been prohibited for forever. If you think of it in a certain way, it became an issue in the early 90s with Lane County Board of Commissioners who intended to violate the rule, and that's what caused the problem. there's never been an outright prohibition on members of a governing body talking to each other about governing body business. The prohibition is on a quorum talking to each other outside of a public meeting. But OGC has been very conservative, and they said, hey, you start those conversations and it leads to a potential public meeting violation, so we recommend you don't have them. At trainings, they've been asked the question about, if two commissioners are going up in the elevator to the meeting and one of the commissioners mentions, hey, what about this agenda item? Their recommended response is, I can't talk to you about that. Which I don't think is the law, right? Because it's not a quorum. But, I understand where they're coming from with their advice. It just makes it really difficult for you to develop, thoughts on agenda items.
So
Did I answer the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I'll share some of my concerns on this. So I've been on the Planning Commission maybe 4 years now. And one of the things that I've noticed is that the Planning Commission, which was originally charged with providing very broad advice to the City Council. I think if you look back at the charter, it's, these 8 or 9 points that include everything from public morals, which we avoid, to sanitation and other things. And that mandate over the years, particularly because of our land use policies, have shrunk down. And in my view, the Planning Commission is largely just a responsive vehicle when the city needs to process an application. And so we come in and we listen to a presentation and we make a decision that's needed, and then we disband. And kind of the commission's whole capacity or original mandate of providing advice to the council has kind of degraded over the years. And so over the past couple of years, we've started to change a little bit of that. Before, we used to cancel meetings if we didn't have an agenda. And then we found out we couldn't do that because, in fact, we had to meet twice a month. And there was a motion to get rid of that requirement and meet just once a month. But the commission chose not to do that because they wanted to have broader conversations than what was just brought in for a land use application. So as part of that process, we also talked about the need to develop our thoughts in subcommittees, right? Because it's not useful, and no one likes it, when I simply throw out an idea, right? It needs to get refined and discussed and processed with other people so we can come back with a product that is more thoughtful, more deliberative, and more substantive, and so people can take it seriously, and it's not just a brainstorm idea. So we created 2 subcommittees. The Wetlands and Streams Subcommittee has been meeting for over 2 years now, and we've done significant work together. And by work together, I mean the last meeting we had was 60, maybe 75 minutes. There are 3 of us. We sat down with laptops and we talked about the accuracy of GIS layers and how are we going to present them. Now, I don't think any of my colleagues wants to sit for 90 minutes during a meeting and discuss the accuracy of GIS layers. I was good for 60 minutes. Even 90 minutes was a little long. So my question is, how do we engage in substantive conversations and develop ideas that can kind of pass scrutiny if we can't sit together, collaborate, and do that level of work?
I think Lisa might have some responses to that, but I will give you my 2 cents. I think generally that level of detail is probably not appropriate for the Planning Commission. I mean, I think you are a policy body, you certainly are, and you can weigh in on policy. The drilling down to how to interpret GIS levels, I'm not sure that's within your rubric, but I don't know the specifics of it in this context, so maybe I'm wrong. But I think in an ideal world, yeah, we have subcommittees that are staffed and at public accessible forums that meet the requirements of public meetings law, but we've got to deal with the reality of what our situation is. So, we've laid out some different options that we think are feasible, and, just going off on a subcommittee that doesn't meet those requirements isn't an option.
So I guess I would refer over to the Oregon rules, and I've already sent this over around the Citizen Involvement Committee, which this body is designated as a Citizen Involvement Committee. I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at those, but those certainly provided gave a lot of expansive opportunities for the Citizen Involvement Committee to engage in the planning process, including drilling down and fact-finding quite extensively. That's in there, as well as the ability to initiate policy. Right now, there's kind of a, and I think you kind of nailed it, is like there's a level, and we operate at this level, and our guidance goes to staff or it goes to the city council, and then it stops. But our ability to develop things in detail seems to be curtailed, even though, as I said before, that the having to stick at a surface level prevents us from developing anything in detail, and that just then limits what we can discuss. And I don't think there is a limit on what we can discuss related to our mandate. We have a broad mandate. We're empowered by the state to engage in a set of activities. And what I'm hearing is you can engage in those activities only when we, the staff, have the resources which we decide on to support your activity. And I don't think that's the intention of the statute.
I was just going to say that it's not staff that decide on the resources, it's the city council. They set our budget. So if they want us to have more staff, that's within their purview. And then they determine generally the projects we're working on or state law, right? A lot of the stuff we're doing right now is state law and state mandates. So it's not staff determining that we have staff, or, I don't get to decide that I want more planners and I just get them. But I just want to clarify, that's city council. I guess I'll say, there's no technical requirements to be on planning commission. There are on some committees, right? Like Historic Landmarks Commission, you have to have a certain degree, et cetera, et cetera. And I think, maybe before you, Michael, and a few of the other commissioners, we've not had necessarily commissioners that would feel that they want to or have the capability to even look at GIS layers or request those from the city like you did, or to write a draft ordinance and that kind of stuff. I think I would agree with Dan, outside of the purview of what we would consider a planning commissioner role, not to talk about the policy topic, should we have stream protections, what should they be, et cetera, but to do the technical work to come up with a proposal.
Right. And I think the issue is, and we've talked about this a lot at the city council, right, is which we have the staff and the city council have limitations, right? They can only do so much. We understand that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the city can't do more or that the population can't do more. I mean, part of the reasons that we have these committees is to expand the capacity of the city council to do work. And so for someone to come in and then say, well, you can only do this kind of work because we've decided that this type of work can only be done by staff, is just limiting us. And I think, again, is really contrary to the whole intent of the planning law.
I haven't reviewed the specific sections of Goal 1 that you sent me, so this is just off the top of the cuff here. Planning Commission is welcome to have any policy discussion within their rubric that they want. You can also, to the extent that you're able to, do additional work, such as think about draft ordinances, draft language, propose them to the Planning Commission and staff. But I don't think that Goal 1 requires us to fund planning staff at a level that requires us to staff subcommittee meetings. And that's the specific issue that we're talking about tonight. If there's other ways to facilitate the Planning Commission doing additional work beyond what would be typical, there may be ways to get there. As far as the subcommittee issue goes, it's just, we can't do it.
And I'm certainly not contesting that this is a government body, but the subcommittees are government bodies. So I agree with you on that point. I think that's not to debate. I mean, the other thing that we haven't talked about is what are the constraints on subcommittees from doing their own announcements and minutes?
Well, for example, the agenda has to be posted on the website, so that's something staff would have to do. Then you'd have to record your own meeting, and then I believe we would need to listen to it and do the minutes, so there would be staff time for that. And then you'd also need an accessible location. And if that's a city facility, then the staff have to be there to like allow you to use the facility.
So I think what Lisa's saying is the impacts on staff would be pretty similar to us just staffing the meeting.
I'm still sorting through what the impacts are. Okay, but that's helpful information.
Why would staff need to do the minutes?
So the requirement in public meeting law is that it either has to have essentially verbatim minutes or you have to record it. And then you have to do notice minutes from that. They're not all substantially hard to do, but they do require certain legal requirements. And I wouldn't be comfortable with commissioners drafting their own minutes without staff reviewing them.
Are there other questions? All right, I don't
know if the commission wants to like make a decision tonight. I don't think you have to make a decision tonight. It's a lot of information, but we are saying no more subcommittee meetings until some decision's been made. Is that correct, Dan?
Right. At this point, we need to suspend any subcommittee meetings. I think we will be back in front of you with a plan to get that information to the entire planning commission.
So I think we're ready the Wetlands Committee is ready to have a public meeting, and I think we're willing to do that at the next planned staff meeting. So we can notice that, and at least I'll get you an agenda.
I may not be up on the lingo, but what do you mean by a planned staff meeting?
Sorry, the next planning commission meeting.
Oh, okay.
The next planning commission, we can accommodate that and provide information and report and other materials that we've been working on to get the public notice, and I can send an agenda out. So I think we can take care of that one quickly.
I think staff will probably be in touch with all the folks who've been working on the different subcommittees to try to collect up information as far as meeting dates, content, information, materials like that.
Thank you.
And our next meeting is November 25th. That's when you're talking about?
Yep. So you'll need an agenda this Monday before?
Yeah, we send it out a week. Sorry, I think we send it out Tuesday the week before.
Right.
So if we can have it, a week and a day ahead of time, so we can get it put together. Yes,
That works
thank
for
you.
me.
As far as transportation is concerned, I think the discussion could probably be better served with just a few special agenda items rather than a subcommittee meeting. I know right now it's just Marissa and I, and I think we could have a lot better and more productive meeting if we could have everybody there for the discussion. And I can put something together, or maybe staff can put something together and I can ask questions, and the whole group can discuss this. But just as a concern for public meetings law, I think I would just be comfortable disbanding the transportation subcommittee, and then just having a few special agenda items to talk about the issues that have come before us during land use case hearings, and perhaps that discussion might happen during the TSP process. But to me, it's a very important issue, and I think some special conversation needs to happen as a group. But just given this situation, I think it might just be best to disband for now and move forward at a later time.
I think, as we said, we're not going to have any more subcommittee meetings for the time being until we've got this issue figured out.
Okay.
I think what we'd like to do is collect that information that the committees have been working on, and then that'll be an agenda topic at a future planning commission meeting. Just so I know it wasn't anyone's intent that we're going to do this work behind closed doors or anything like that. I think this information was going to come to the planning commission in one form or another, eventually, and we still want that to happen. In fact, we need that to happen, so folks who are interested in these topics from the public know that what work has been done, and this is the product that resulted from it.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else on this before we move on? All right, information reports. None.
No.
I'm going to skip my ritual of asking questions.
Any administrator report?
Yes.
Oh. Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't realize where we're at. So that is our only item we have for November 25th. Just the subcommittee so far. We might have something else.
So we won't cancel it.
We were not, no, we'll have a meeting. But Jennifer has an announcement.
But just to be clear, so since this is a subcommittee meeting, would we cancel, if there's no agenda items, would we cancel the full meeting? And
We could. But we would-
I'm sorry, I may not have been tracking. There's a subcommittee meeting
He's
scheduled?
wanting us to, he's going to have so option 2 in the memo. He's going to have.
I'm
the
exercising
subcommittee-
option 2.
Yeah, meeting immediately following a regular commission meeting. And so we would send notice, staff would be here and we would staff that. And there would be,
And coincidentally, we don't have anything else to do
yes,
on that particular meeting, so I don't know if we need to drag the rest of the.
that's okay. Okay.
I'm
so-
fine with that, thank you.
So we don't have any other items. We'll just have a subcommittee meeting. That could be your subcommittee. And then you would still plan, in theory, then on December 2nd to present to the full commission.
Right. And that provides enough notice, Dan, is that correct?
So the requirement is the notice is 48 hours in advance.
48 hours. So okay, so our week is
So-
fine.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's.
Okay, so Jen has an announcement.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that I've put my notice in with the city. So my last day is December 11th. So
Tell us what you're doing.
Oh, well, I'm I'm moving to Asia to just travel around for a while. The goal is like to travel for a year and then kind of reassess. But I'm starting out in Nepal and then,
That's great.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Great, yeah.
I feel kind of bad that we're now having this conversation and then I'm like, oh, I'm leaving, which doesn't help the staffing issue, but they'll hire someone else. Great. So,
And it's much more interesting what you'll be doing.
Yes.
yeah. That's all.
Well, bon voyage and good health.
And I did note in the memo, we have 2 staff assistants in planning. So we have Zach, who I think is filled in sometimes here. He staffs Historic Landmarks Commission and the hearings officer. He's also provided his notice. He's going to the state. His last day is next week. So we have 0 staff assistants to do any of the things, including process the applications, send the notice, and all the things besides taking the minutes. So it's a very stressful time to be talking about this staffing. So wish us luck.
I have a question. So are we going to have a November 25th meeting or not? Is there any real reason for doing a November 25th meeting?
No, the deadline for us to put any agenda items to send notice would be tomorrow. So, and Jen doesn't have any from any of the planners. So I think we can confidently say we don't have any items for a regular meeting on November 25th.
Okay,
And we can
so then the next
cancel that meeting.
scheduled meeting will be December the 2nd?
December 2nd. Yeah.
Okay,
So do we just need to formally cancel?
We can formally cancel.
So we will formally cancel.
Yeah.
I was just unclear if we had something to do.
okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just
So-
only have our subcommittee meeting that
Correct.
night. In
So
this room.
the December 2nd agenda will include a conversation or an agenda item for subcommittee discussion.
Yes, for the commission to kind of
Right.
officially
Thank you.
decide based on the information given tonight. Yes.
Guess so. All right. Any comments for the good of the order? No? All right. Oh, I actually do have one more question that's kind of important related to Dan, your work. So we have 8 members. What's a quorum? Lisa, it's in our bylaws. What's our quorum at?
I'm gonna say 5, but she'll check the bylaws.
Oh, yes, okay. I do remember now. So in our last amendments, we changed it to a majority, which would be of appointive members. So we have 8 right now, so it would be 5.
Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. We're adjourned. Take what you get, right?